The light we seek often lies within darkness, waiting to be discovered. Darkness doesn't always mean absence. Sometimes it means presence of something else entirely, something deeper, more profound than what meets the eye. Today's story is about a woman who navigated through shadows to find the most illuminating truth of all. Before we begin this journey together, make sure you're comfortable. This tale will take you through valleys of despair and mountains of hope, through manipulations and revelations, ultimately arriving at a destination that might change how you perceive your own life's challenges. Meet Amara Chen, 23 years old with flowing black hair, delicate features, and eyes that hadn't seen the world since childhood. But there was something about those unseeing eyes of depth and understanding, as if they peered into dimensions invisible to others. Amara, hurry up with those dishes. Her stepmother's shrill voice cut through the small apartment they shared in the poorer district of Shanghai. Amara's fingers moved deftly over the plates, feeling for remnants of food, ensuring each was perfectly clean. Her world existed through touch, sound, and smell, the cool ceramic beneath her fingertips, the clinking of dishes, the lingering aroma of the modest dinner they'd just finished. "Coming, stepmother," she replied, her voice soft but steady. Amara had lost her sight at 8 after an illness her family couldn't afford proper treatment for. Her father had died 2 years later, leaving her at the mercy of a stepmother who saw her as nothing but a burden and an additional mouth to feed. Years passed, and while Amara's stepmother provided basic necessities, there was never affection, only resentment thinly veiled as responsibility. What few knew was that Amara possessed an extraordinary gift. Her fingers could create art that spoke to souls. When alone, she would mold clay into figures so lifelike they seemed about to breathe. Her sculptures captured emotions with an authenticity that sighted artists often struggled to achieve. It was as if her hands could see what eyes could not. But such talents remained hidden behind the walls of their small apartment. Her stepmother ensured Amara remained dependent, convinced her that the world would be cruel to someone with her disability. "You're lucky I keep you," she would often remind Amara. Who else would care for a blind girl with nothing to offer? Unbeknownst to Amara, her life was about to change dramatically, orchestrated by the very woman who claimed to protect her. Lin Wei had been planning this for months. Business wasn't good. Debts were mounting. Her mahjong habit had spiraled into gambling debts she couldn't repay. She needed money, a substantial amount, and quickly. The opportunity presented itself through an old acquaintance who worked as a housekeeper for one of Shanghai's wealthiest men, Alexander Morgan. Half American, half Chinese, Alexander had built a tech empire that spanned continents. At 42, he was considered one of the most eligible bachelors in Asia despite widespread rumors of his eccentric and reclusive nature. "He needs a wife," the housekeeper had whispered over tea one afternoon. "Someone compliant. Someone who won't ask questions about his peculiarities." Lin Wei's eyes had gleamed with opportunity. What kind of peculiarities? Mr. Morgan rarely leaves his estate. He conducts all business remotely. Some say he's hideously disfigured from an accident years ago, though no one knows for certain. He's willing to pay handsomely for a suitable arrangement, a marriage that would give him companionship without judgment. That evening, studying Amara as she carefully folded laundry, Lin Wei formulated her plan. A blind girl wouldn't care about appearances. A blind girl raised in dependency wouldn't know how to question her fate. A blind girl with no other family would have nowhere to turn if things went wrong. Perfect. "Amara," Lin Wei announced one evening, "I've arranged a marriage for you." Amara's hand stilled on the sweater she was folding. "Marriage? To whom?" "A very wealthy man named Alexander Morgan. He's willing to provide generously for your future and mine, as compensation for raising you." Fear and confusion washed over Amara's face. "But I don't know this man. I've never met him." Lin Wei's voice hardened. "And when have you had better prospects? You think suitors are lining up for a blind girl with no dowry? This is the best opportunity you'll ever have." Does he know I'm blind?" "Of course. That's exactly why he chose you." The lie slipped easily from Lin Wei's lips. Alexander Morgan knew nothing about Amara's blindness. Lin Wei had described her as a shy, beautiful young woman raised in seclusion. the substantial dowry he offered would clear Lin Wei's debts with enough left over to start fresh elsewhere. When Amara asked, her voice barely audible, "You will be taken to his estate tomorrow. I've already packed your things." That night, alone in her small bedroom, Amara wept silently. Her fingers found the small clay figurine hidden beneath her mattress, a perfect replica of her father as she remembered him. Running her fingers over the familiar features brought little comfort tonight. Tomorrow, she would be delivered to a stranger like merchandise. What Amara couldn't know was that both she and Alexander Morgan were pawns in a deception that would unravel in ways no one could anticipate. The journey to Alexander Morgan's estate took nearly 2 hours. The car that collected Amara purred with luxury she'd never experienced before. The leather seats felt butter-soft beneath her nervous fingers. "We're approaching the main gate, Miss Chen," the driver announced. Amara nodded, clutching her small bag of personal belongings. Inside was the clay figurine of her father, wrapped carefully in cloth, the one possession she couldn't bear to leave behind. The car slowed, then continued. Amara felt the change in terrain, the smooth glide suggesting a private road. Minutes later, they stopped. "Welcome to Morgan Estate, Miss Chen." Help from the car. Amara's other senses immediately catalog her surroundings. The air smelled different here, cleaner, with hints of flowering plants. Distant water, perhaps a fountain? Birds singing. No traffic noise. Complete separation from the world she knew. "This way, please." A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "I'm Mrs. Zhang, the head housekeeper. I'll show you to your accommodations." Amara extended her folding cane, but a hand gently stopped her. "That won't be necessary. I'll guide you. You know I'm blind?" Amara questioned, surprised, a momentary pause. "Of course," Mr. Morgan informed, "all staff of your condition were prepared to assist you." That's strange, Amara thought. If her future husband had told the staff about her blindness, why did Mrs. Zhang seem surprised by her cane? She was led to what must have been enormous spaces their footsteps echoed, suggesting high ceilings and hard surfaces. The air felt different in each area they passed through, allowing Amara to mentally map the changing dimensions. "These will be your private quarters until the wedding," Mrs. Zhang explained, guiding Amara's hand to various objects in what felt like a luxurious suite. "Bedroom through here, bathroom to your right. Sitting room where we entered. Your clothing has been provided." Mr. Morgan is very specific about appearances. Asterisk appearances. An odd concern for a wife who cannot see. Asterisk. "When will I meet Mr. Morgan?" Amara asked quietly. "This evening. He'll dine with you at 7. Someone will come to help you prepare." With that, Mrs. Zhang departed, leaving Amara alone in unfamiliar surroundings. Carefully, methodically, Amara began exploring her new space. Her fingers traced fine silks, plush carpets, cool marble. Such opulence was foreign to her, yet she mapped each room with precision, creating a mental image of her gilded cage. In the silence of this strange new world, Amara pulled out her clay figurine. Her fingers moved automatically, smoothing, shaping, finding comfort in the familiar activity. Hours passed this way until a knock announced the arrival of her attendant. "Miss Chen, I'm May. I'm here to help you prepare for dinner." The young woman gasped softly upon entering. "What is it you're making?" "It's beautiful." Amara quickly wrapped the half-formed sculpture, a bird in flight, and hid it away. "Nothing important," she murmured, as May helped her bathe and dress, selecting a gown that apparently complemented Amara's complexion perfectly. The young attendant chattered nervously. "You're very lucky, Miss Chen. Many women would give anything to be in your position. To be sold to a stranger?" Amara couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. May fell silent for a moment. "Mr. Morgan is not what you might expect," she finally said. "There are rumors, of course, but he's been kind to all of us who work here." "What kind of rumors?" "It's not my place to say," May responded quickly. "There, you're ready. You look beautiful." Beautiful, a concept Amara understood only through touch and memory. What did beauty matter in a world of darkness? And what did it matter to a man who had purchased her sight unseen? As May led her to the dining room, Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. In moments, she would meet the man who now owned her future. The dining room fell silent as Amara entered. Her trained senses detected a single person already present, presumably Alexander Morgan. She heard the scrape of a chair, footsteps approaching. "Miss Chen." His voice was deep, resonant, with the slightest accent suggesting his mixed heritage. "Welcome to my home." No attempt to take her hand. No physical greeting of any kind. "Interesting. Mr. Morgan." Amara inclined her head slightly in the direction of his voice. "Thank you for your hospitality. Please sit." He guided her not by touching her, but by describing the path. 3 steps forward, then the chair will be directly to your right. His awareness of how to assist without presuming struck Amara as unusual. Most people grabbed, pulled, pushed, treating her blindness as license to handle her without permission. They sat in silence as servers placed dishes before them. Amara waited, listening for cues on which utensils Alexander was using. "The plate is arranged like a clock," he said suddenly. "Steamed fish at 6 o'clock, vegetables at 2, rice at 10. Again, his consideration surprised her. "You seem familiar with accommodating blindness, Mr. Morgan," she observed carefully. "I believe in respecting autonomy," he replied simply. "Tell me about yourself, Miss Chen." What was there to tell? That she spent years being reminded of her uselessness? That she was here because her stepmother had sold her? "There's little to tell," she said softly. "I lost my sight as a child. My life has been sheltered. And how do you feel about this arrangement?" The question startled her. No one had asked how she felt about anything in years. "Does it matter how I feel, Mr. Morgan?" A moment of silence. "Yes," he finally said. "It matters significantly." Something in his tone, a gentleness, perhaps emboldened her. "Then honestly, I feel afraid. I don't know you. I don't know this place. I don't understand why a man of your position would arrange marriage to someone like me." "Someone like you," he repeated thoughtfully. "And what kind of person do you believe yourself to be, Miss Chen?" "Blind. Poor. Without options." The words tasted bitter. "I see." The simple phrase held layers of meaning neither could fully unpack yet. Perhaps in time, you'll discover there's more to both of us than such simple definitions. The remainder of the meal passed in surprisingly comfortable conversation. Alexander asked about her interests and seemed genuinely intrigued when she hesitantly mentioned her love of sculpting. "You create art?" he asked, curiosity evident. "Not art," she demurred. "Just shapes that please my fingers. I'd very much like to see them someday, if you're willing." As the evening concluded, Alexander explained their situation with unexpected frankness. "Our wedding is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. A simple ceremony, just legal witnesses. Until then, this house and grounds are yours to explore. My staff will assist you in learning the layout. I ask only that you respect my privacy by not entering the East Wing, which contains my private quarters and workspaces." "Like Bluebeard's castle?" Amara couldn't help remarking. To her surprise, Alexander laughed a warm, genuine sound. "Nothing so sinister, I assure you. Just a man who values his solitude. Mrs. Zhang will arrange for someone to show you the grounds tomorrow. Good night, Miss Chen." He left without attempting to touch her, another curiosity in this strange arrangement. Back in her suite, Amara's mind raced with questions. Why would a billionaire choose a blind bride through such an arrangement? Why the consideration for her comfort? Why the forbidden wing? Most puzzling of all, why did she feel more intrigued and frightened after their first meeting? Days passed, developing into a routine. Each morning, Amara explored another section of the vast estate, accompanied by different staff members who seemed increasingly comfortable in her presence. She discovered gardens with fragrant flowers, a greenhouse of herbs that tickled her nose with their sharp scents, even a small art studio that Alexander had instructed be open for her use. "Mr. Morgan requested clay and tools be made available to you," explained the gardener who showed her the space. "Said you might enjoy creating while you settle in." Evenings brought dinner with Alexander, always proper, always maintaining physical distance, yet growing increasingly comfortable in conversation. He spoke of business concerns in general terms, asked thoughtful questions about her experiences, shared anecdotes from his travels. Never once did he mention her blindness as a deficit or his apparent reclusive nature. These topics hung between them, acknowledged but undiscussed. On the fifth evening, something changed. Dinner concluded as usual, but as Amara rose to leave, Alexander cleared his throat. "Would you join me in the music room? There's something I'd like to share with you." Curiosity piqued. She agreed. He led her not by touching, but by walking beside her, describing their path with quiet precision. The music room's acoustics were immediately apparent. Her footsteps echoed differently, suggesting a large space designed for sound. The temperature was slightly cooler, the air somehow cleaner. "Do you play?" she asked, detecting the distinctive sandalwood polish and strings that suggested piano. "Not well," Alexander admitted, "but music has been important to me. I thought perhaps would you sit?" She found the indicated chair, settled, waited. What followed nearly stopped her heart. The first notes of Debussy's Clair de Lune filled the room not from recording, but played live with a touch both hesitant and heartfelt. Alexander was being modest. He played beautifully, if not perfectly. Technical flaws were overshadowed by emotional authenticity that made the piece breathe with life. When the final notes faded, Amara realized her cheeks were wet. "That was lovely," she whispered. "My mother taught me," he said quietly, before everything changed. Something in his voice, vulnerability, perhaps gave Amara courage. "What changed, Alexander?" The use of his first name hung between them, intimate and unplanned. A long silence followed. "Many things," he finally answered. "Perhaps someday I'll tell you. Not tonight." On her way back to her quarters, Amara realized something important had shifted. Alexander Morgan was no longer simply the man who had purchased her future. He was becoming a person complex, wounded perhaps, but real. That night, her fingers shaped clay with new purpose. Not her father's face this time, but the feeling of music in the darkness. 3 days before the wedding, Amara's exploration led her to a corridor she hadn't visited before. Her guide, a young groundskeeper named Jean, hesitated. "This approaches the East Wing, Miss Chun. Mr. Morgan prefers." "I remember the boundaries," she assured him. "But this hallway itself is permitted?" "Yes, it leads to the old library. Mr. Morgan said you might enjoy the space." The library smelled of leather, paper, and history. Jean described tall shelves reaching toward a domed ceiling, comfortable reading nooks, and one feature that particularly interested Amara's collection of tactile art and specialized books. Mr. Morgan acquired several volumes in Braille. Jean explained awkwardly, "And these sculptures are meant to be touched. He said to tell you they're here whenever you wish to visit." After Jean left, Amara explored the collection with wonder. Her fingers traced bronze figures, stone carvings, wooden sculptures, all clearly selected for their tactile qualities. The Braille books ranged from classics to modern works, poetry to science. Such consideration couldn't be improvised. These items must have been acquired weeks ago, before her arrival. Why would Alexander prepare so thoughtfully for a bride chosen through financial arrangement? As she examined a particularly intricate wooden carving, her fingers detected a seam in the nearby wall. Curious, she explored further, discovering what felt like a concealed door. It swung open silently at her touch. Immediately, Amara knew she'd made a mistake. The subtle change in air current and echo quality told her she'd entered the forbidden East Wing. She should turn back. She knew this. Yet something compelled her forward. Not mere curiosity, but an intuition that answers lay ahead. The hallway felt different, warmer, lived in. Following the wall with her fingertips, she discovered another door, partially open. From beyond came the sound of movement, someone working. Without meaning to, she nudged the door wider. The sound stopped abruptly. "Who's there?" Alexander's voice, but different, unguarded, without its usual measured calm. "I'm sorry," Amara began. "I got turned around in the library, and you shouldn't be here." Not angry, but frightened? "I'll leave immediately." She turned to go. "Wait." His voice closer now. "Since you're here, perhaps it's time." "Time for what?" A long pause. Truth, Amara, please come in. She entered cautiously, immediately struck by the room's atmosphere, the scent of clay and stone dust, the subtle sounds of tools being set aside. A studio of some kind. You're a sculptor, she realized aloud. Yes. A simple confirmation, loaded with unspoken meaning. May I? Her hands lifted slightly, asking permission. Another pause, then, yes. She moved carefully toward his voice, hands extended. Her fingers met smooth stone, a figure taking shape beneath a skilled hand, moving systematically. She explored the piece of woman's form, head tilted, as if listening to something only she could hear. It's beautiful, she breathed. The tension in the position, the suggestion of movement about to happen. You can tell all that through touch? Wonder colored his question. It's how I see, she explained simply. May I feel others? For the next hour, Alexander guided her through his private sanctuary. Her hands discovered dozens of sculptures in various materials: stone, wood, metal, clay. Each piece carried emotional resonance that spoke directly through her fingertips. These weren't just technically proficient works. They held soul. You're not just skilled, she said finally. You're gifted. Why hide this? The silence stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Because Alexander Morgan, reclusive tech billionaire, isn't supposed to spend his days covered in clay dust and stone chips. My board of directors, my investors, they expect a certain image. So you pretend to be what they expect. It became easier than fighting for understanding, especially after the accident. Her hands stilled on the sculpture she was exploring. What accident? Again that hesitation. Then, with deliberate movement, he took her hand. For the first time, he initiated physical contact, guiding her fingers to his face. She understood immediately. Beneath her sensitive touch, she found extensive scarring, ridged tissue extending from his right temple down his cheek, pulling slightly at the corner of his mouth and eye. A car crash, he explained quietly. 6 years ago. The physical recovery was straightforward, but afterward I couldn't bear the stares, the whispers, the carefully masked revulsion. My work suffered as I became more reclusive. Eventually, I withdrew completely, managing everything remotely. Amara's fingers continued their gentle exploration, mapping his features. Does my appearance disturb you? He asked, vulnerability raw in his voice. I cannot see your scars, Alexander, she reminded him softly. Only feel the evidence of something painful you survived, the map of your endurance. Something changed in the atmosphere between them, a barrier crumbling. Why did you agree to marry me? She asked. The real reason. His sigh carried years of isolation. Because your stepmother described someone who might understand living behind barriers. Someone who judges by substance rather than surface. I was told you were gentle, beautiful, and raised to appreciate security over passion. A suitable companion for a recluse. She sold me to you, Amara stated flatly. Yes. No attempt to soften the ugly truth. I didn't realize the full extent of her manipulation until you arrived, and I saw how unprepared you were. By then, I couldn't bear to send you back to her. I thought perhaps we might find some companionable arrangement. And now, another long silence. Now I'm not sure what I think, except that you're not what I expected, Amara Chen. As she left the studio that evening, Amara carried new understanding. Their arrangement had begun in deception, her stepmother manipulating them both for profit. Yet something genuine had taken root in that artificial beginning. But could anything real grow from such a foundation of lies? The morning of their wedding arrived with unsettling clarity. Amara had barely slept, her mind circling through discoveries and decisions. As May helped her dress in a simple white gown, Amara made her choice. I need to speak with Mr. Morgan before the ceremony. But tradition May began. Please, May, it's important. Reluctantly, May arranged for Amara to meet Alexander in the music room. When she entered, she sensed his presence immediately, the subtle shift in air, the almost imperceptible sound of his breathing. Amara, is everything all right? She moved forward confidently. No cane, no guide, she had memorized his path. No, she said simply. Everything is not all right. We're about to make vows based on manipulation and half-truths. She heard him shift position, sensed a move closer without touching her. What would you have us do? He asked quietly. Start again. Honestly. She took a deep breath. I have a secret of my own, Alexander. Reaching into the small bag she carried, she withdrew an object wrapped in silk. Carefully unwrapping it, she revealed a small clay sculpture of the bird in flight she'd been working on when she arrived. This is how I see, she explained, placing it in his hands. Through my fingers, through the shapes I create. She heard his sharp intake of breath as he examined the piece. This is extraordinary. The detail, the sense of movement. I've been sculpting since I was 10. It became my world after I lost my sight. My stepmother convinced me no one would value such things from a blind girl. She kept me dependent, isolated. Understanding dawned in his voice. Just as my board and investors convinced me no one would respect a scarred artist pretending to be a tech executive. We've both been living half-lives, Amara said softly, believing the limitations others placed on us. Alexander set the sculpture aside carefully. For the first time, his hands reached for hers with intent, enfolding her fingers in his. What do you want, Amara? Not what you'll settle for, what do you truly want? The question unlocked something inside her, a door long sealed by others' expectations. I want freedom to create. I want my work to be seen, truly seen for what it expresses, not dismissed because of who made it. Her voice strengthened. I want connection with someone who understands that beauty exists beyond what eyes perceive. I want... What? He prompted gently when she faltered. I want the chance to choose my own path, not have it chosen for me. His thumbs traced circles on the backs of her hands, an artist's touch, sensitive and expressive. And does that path include me? Vulnerability edged his question. Truth demanded truth in return. I don't know yet. I've known you less than 2 weeks, under strange circumstances. But I'd like the chance to find out properly, not as a transaction. The silence stretched between them, filled with possibility rather than obligation. Then let's cancel the wedding, he said finally. Surprise tensed her fingers in his. What? Let's cancel today's ceremony. Begin again, as you suggested honestly, without pressure or predetermined outcome. Your arrangements with my stepmother were made under false pretenses. I'll ensure she receives nothing further from me. As for you, his hands tightened slightly on hers. Stay, Amara, not as my purchased bride, but as my guest. Get to know me, the real me, not the reclusive billionaire. Let me know the real you, the artist of extraordinary talent. Then we'll decide what comes next. Relief and something like joy bubbled through her. I'd like that very much. 6 months later, the Morgan Gallery opened its doors for a most unusual exhibition. Perspectives featured sculpture pairs, each subject interpreted twice, once by Alexander Morgan and once by Amara Chen. Their complementary approaches created dialogue between pieces as visual interpretation conversing with her tactile one. Critics raved about the innovative approach. The exhibition featured raised walkways allowing sighted visitors to experience the sculptures from various angles, while textured floor paths guided visually impaired guests through the space. All visitors were encouraged to touch the works, experiencing art through multiple senses. Behind the scenes, Alexander and Amara had developed a creative partnership that evolved naturally into deeper connection. Working side by side in the studio, they discovered communication that transcended conventional boundaries. Her fingers would trace his completed works, offering perspectives he'd never considered. His eyes would describe subtle visual elements she incorporated unconsciously. You've brought color back to my world, he told her one evening as they sat in the garden, her head resting against his shoulder, physical barriers long since dissolved between them. And you've helped me see possibilities I never imagined, she replied, fingers intertwined with his. Neither rushed toward formal commitment. The failed wedding became a private joke between them, the ceremony that never was, making way for what could be. Alexander gradually reemerged in public life, his scarred face no longer hidden. If people stared, he found he cared less with Amara beside him. His company thrived under a more balanced approach. He now took delegating management aspects to focus on innovation and design, areas where his artistic sensibilities proved valuable. Amara established a foundation providing arts education and opportunities for visually impaired children. Her studio within Alexander's home. No longer forbidden, East Wing became a place where young artists discovered their own unique perspectives. As for Linway, she received legal notice that her arrangement with Alexander Morgan had been nullified due to fraudulent representation. The small settlement she received came with stipulations preventing any further contact with Amara. Freedom, Amara discovered, came in unexpected forms. Not the absence of limitation, but the presence of possibility. Not independence from all connection, but interdependence with those who respected boundaries while helping transcend them. 1 year to the day after their non-wedding, Alexander found Amara in their shared studio, putting finishing touches on her latest work. "What are you creating?" he asked, moving beside her. Her hands shaped the clay with confidence. "Us," she replied simply. The sculpture depicted two figures, backs pressed together, supporting each other while facing different directions. Connected but independent, stronger together than apart. Alexander studied it silently, then placed a small box beside her working hand. Her sensitive fingers explored the velvet cube, found the hinge, opened it to discover a ring not a traditional diamond, but a sculpted band of precious metal, textured and complex beneath her touch. "I designed it myself," he said quietly. "Like us, it's not conventional." "Are you asking me something, Alexander?" A smile played at her lips. "I'm asking if you'll marry me. Not because of an arrangement. Not because either of us needs saving. Simply because I love you and life is better with you in it." Her fingers found his face, tracing the features that had become beloved to her. Scars and all. "Yes," she answered. "Because I choose you just as you choose me." In the end, what began as transaction became transformation. The poor blind girl sold to a rich billionaire discovered she was never merely what others perceived. She was an artist with unique vision. The scarred recluse hiding from the world discovered he was never defined by others' reactions. He was worthy of connection exactly as he was. Together, they created something neither could have imagined alone, a life where limitations became simply another perspective from which to view infinite possibility.